What if I told you that the nice thing you've been doing your whole life, the thing your mother praised you for, the thing that made you the easy one, the responsible daughter, the good employee, and the loyal friend, what if I told you that thing is actually a form of manipulation? I know. I had the same reaction. I wanted to throw up a little bit the first time someone said this to me, and I'll tell you who in a minute. I felt my whole body go, because I don't think of myself as a manipulative person. I think of myself as a kind person, a thoughtful person, a person who notices what other people need and tries to give it to them before they need to even ask. But that's exactly the problem. Hello, I'm Tera Simkins, and this is the Soul-u-tions Podcast. Today we're talking about one of the most exhausting things that women do, and the lie underneath it that's keeping us small, sick, and even a little sleepless. By the end of this episode, you're going to have language for something you've been doing your entire life without knowing it had a name. And more importantly, you're going to have a way out. So enjoy the music, and I'll catch you on the other side. Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." Most everyone in the world is solving their problems the wrong way. Our problems come from our thinking, and we can solve them with our thinking. So whether you're at your lowest, just trying to grow, or whether you are trying to sustain growth over your lifetime, join us as we push the boundaries of our current thinking and redefine how we find Soul-u-tions.
The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibilities.
Let me paint a picture for you. It's Wednesday morning, and my friend walks into her office. It's a business that she owns, and honestly, she kills it. And one of her employees just quits, totally unexpectedly, hands in her resignation. Now, when that happened, what do you think my friend was feeling? A little stressed, maybe annoyed, and let's be honest, maybe a little relieved, because some employees are easier to let go of than others. And sometimes, because of this exact topic we're going to talk about today, we tend to not address certain issues with employees, or let's just fill in the blank, anyone this could be in your life. Because just because you don't own a business, I don't want you to change the channel and stop listening to this episode, because it is about any relationship. And it's something that a lot of people, like me, especially me included, have this tendency to do. So one of the things I think in this type of situation, or any type of relationship where someone either quits on you or breaks up with you, is that you actually feel shame. And shame is such a deep body level feeling, the kind that whispers, I'm too much, maybe even I asked for too much, my expectations are too high, I'm a perfectionist, I'm unrealistic, I'm the problem. The employee didn't say any of these words to my friend, but her brain, yes, even though she is a brilliant, capable business owner, her brain even still translated the I quit or I need to move on into You are just too much as a boss. You are too much to handle. And here's the part that broke my heart. She told me that she being this little voice in her brain, had been doing this mistranslation her entire life. What am I talking about? I'm talking about people pleasing. And this is the truth behind people pleasing. It isn't being nice, and it's not being thoughtful. People pleasing is actually a survival strategy that you learned when you were probably 4 years old, just sitting there watching your mother's face to see if it was safe to ask for what you needed. People pleasing is an adaptive behavior wired into your nervous system because at some point in your young life, being agreeable equaled being cared for, being fed, being played with, and also you interpreted as being love. And now you're 45 or 55 or even 65, and you're still scanning every face in the room, asking the exact same question this little girl asked. Am I too much? Maybe I'm too much. Or even, I'm too much. There I go again. You're exhausted because you're doing the emotional labor of all the other people in your life, anticipating their needs, smoothing their feathers, managing their reactions, and making yourself smaller so that they feel bigger. And the cruelest part, you think this makes you a good person. But I'm here to tell you it doesn't. What it makes you is a tired person and a resentful person, a person who has lost track of what she actually wants because she's so busy figuring out what everyone else wants. Okay, I have another story for you. This one is a story from someone in the Soul-tions Labs community. And I'll just call her Shirley because why not? Shirley is turning 55 and she's planning her own birthday party at her own house and inviting all of her friends and family. It sounds pretty simple, right? But if you are a grown woman with a lifetime of friends and family, it really probably isn't that simple because there are at least two people, could be a relative, could be a friend, who don't like each other. And in fact, may not even speak to each other when they see each other. So I'm just, for our purposes, going to pretend like one is your mother and one is your aunt. And your mother and your aunt don't get along. I'm putting you in the shoes of Shirley here. And you have a couple of other friends, maybe two other friends who don't get along either. And you realize here it is, your birthday, and you have spent 55 years bending yourself into a pretzel to make sure nobody at any gathering you ever host has to sit next to anybody else that they don't want to. You arrange things so that everybody has plenty of space and plenty of safe people. And maybe you just even separate your parties out, knowing that, oh, this friend group and that friend group, I just don't mix because of this situation. So you end up throwing maybe two parties or a birthday luncheon and another birthday cocktail get together. But you are doing that so that the other people the people that you love don't have to feel uncomfortable. And again, this feels like the right thing to do. It feels like the thing that you were taught to do, and it feels kind. But is it kind to you? Because you end up being the person who is doing all of this extra work, and you end up, I'm going to ask you this too, because it's like, I just asked you if it's kind to you, but I also want you to consider whether it's kind to the other people in your life, because you may be stealing from them the practice that they need to think through for themselves. How do I want to show up at my friend Shirley's party, because I know she's friends with Leslie. And if I want to go to Shirley's party, then I need to figure out how I am going to show up and who I want to be around Leslie. And that requires your friends to be in charge of their own growth. And when you take away that growth opportunity for them because you think that it's kind, you really are stealing an opportunity for them to maybe face some of the things that they've said or done in the past, to maybe make amends, or to maybe figure out how to set their own boundaries. So what I loved about what Shirley shared in class today, that kind of sounds like a she sells seashells. What Shirley said in class today is, she said, I'm done with this. I am 55 years old, and I am done with, drumroll please, people pleasing, trying to contort myself and make sure that everyone else is okay. It really is exhausting me, and it's killing me, just to be sure that nobody has to feel uncomfortable and that nobody ever gets mad at her. But this year, sitting on our Zoom call, our Soul-u-tions Labs Zoom call with a bunch of other women who love her, she said, no more. And I could feel it through the screen. That moment when a woman finally puts down something she's been carrying for so long, she forgot it was even heavy. Because saying I'm done is the easy part. The hard part is what comes next. When her friend calls, or back to our original hypothetical, when her mother calls and says, well, did you invite your aunt to the party? And Shirley has to actually do the thing, not people please her mom, not contort her mom. Because what people pleasing has taught Shirley to do in that moment is to want to list every name, to justify every invitation, to apologize preemptively, and maybe even uninvite her aunt just so that her mother will be happy. What I told Nancy, and what I want to tell you, is that there is a different sentence available to you. And it goes like this: I've invited all of my family and friends. And that includes Aunt Sue. And I know that you have a hard time with Aunt Sue. And I know there's a lot of history there between you. But I feel like I really want you both there. And I understand if that's too much to ask of you and you don't feel like coming. I just want you to know I love you and I hope that you can come. That's it. No justification, a little bit of an explanation, but more of an understanding and a boundary that you're setting. This is my party. These are the people that I love, and I want to ask all the people that I love. And just because you are having a hard time with Aunt Sue doesn't mean that I have to change all of my life to work around it. And going back to that thing that I was sharing before, you can see what I'm talking about, that if you do change your guest list all the time so that two people that you don't love ever have to figure out on their own how they could be in the same room at the same time, you are stealing that opportunity from them. And you are carrying the burden and the emotional labor for them. So next time you find yourself in a situation like Shirley does, and you're like, do I need to have two parties? Or do I need to figure all of this out for them? I would say, in the words of Mel Robbins, let them figure it out for themselves. And add this: I love you, and I trust you to know whether this is something you can do or not do. Okay, I want you to hear this. When you stop people-pleasing, the people that you have been people-pleasing are not going to like it. I know this is the part that makes it even harder to stop people-pleasing, because first, it's hard for you to do something new. It's hard for you to tell the truth to your mom or your sister or your friend or your husband or your child that you've always pretended that you didn't have a problem with something, and all of a sudden you start to say that you actually do. They just aren't going to like it. They, as another woman in the Soul-Shine Lab says, they're going to test the fence. This particular member of the Soul-Shine Labs calls this like, imagine you're at Jurassic Park and the raptors are always testing the electric fence. So your friends or your family are going to come at you again and again to see if you really mean it. So in Shirley's case, what we shared with her and warned her about is her mom may call her 3 or 4 times and say, "Are you sure?" Or she might threaten her to say, "Well, if she's coming, I'm not." And she may call to say, "Is she coming?" 5 or 6 times. Now we're talking about your actual work. What is your emotional labor, which is to continue to point to the fence and be prepared for those questions. You can either say, "Yes, she is coming," or "I don't know. I haven't heard from her." And you can continue to tell the truth, but not change your plans. The first time you say, "I trust you to know what's best for you, Mom," she may, hear, "Oh, Tera," or Shirley in this case, "must be having a bad day. I'm gonna try it another time." Or she may think you're being selfish. Even worse, she may tell you that you're being selfish. And even worse than that, she might actually get a little upset and tell you that she's mad at you. But somewhere around the 5th or the 6th time, she is going to begin to realize that you mean business and that you are going to invite to your party the people that you want to invite. And then it is going to be up to her to figure out for herself, i.e., to do her own emotional labor in this situation. if she's going to come, if she's ready. And hear me out on this. This is not about forcing yourself or people in your life who aren't ready to be in someone's presence to need to be there. But it is about giving them an invitation to check with themselves to say, hey, do I feel like I could actually be in the same room? Or this just popped up into my brain. Why is it that I don't like to be in the same room with my sister? I mean, they may have forgotten what was underneath all of that, why they don't like each other. Or if you have listened to one of the previous podcasts on, advice from a 92-year-old about things that she wished that she had done earlier in her life, there's a story about a group of women who had a rupture in their relationship. But as they got older and older, they found that their friendships began to disappear and fade, as people passed away and moved on, and that they really missed the times that they had together. And when they reached out, it was too late. And so even if that is giving someone an opportunity to revisit for themselves, is this a friendship or a relationship that I would really begin to like to figure out how to be in the same room with? What an amazing gift for them. And I share that with you because that always helps me remember that it isn't selfish for me to want what I want or ask for all my friends and my family to be at the same party, that it could be by being the most loving thing for me, then by definition, it could be the most loving thing for them as well. All right. So now I want to tell you about the problem underneath all of this. And I first heard this from my second life coach, and she said that being a people pleaser is being manipulative. I'm going to repeat that because when I shared this in class today, they were like, reverse. Can you repeat that for me, Tera? When you are people pleasing, you are actually manipulating the situation and the people that you love and that you're in a relationship with. So you are presenting a version of yourself that isn't real or that hides another part of you that you think is maybe unattractive or perhaps that this person won't like. And you do all of that in order to get an outcome that you want, which is for the other person to like you, to not be mad at you. And all of this we do for a very good reason, which is to keep ourselves safe in our tribe, in our herd of people. So the definition of manipulation is when you're managing someone's perception of you by being dishonest about who you are. So, another friend shared this example after Mother's Day or something. Her mother had given her a piece of cake and then came back and said, "What'd you think about the cake? Did you like it?" And she said, I didn't like it. It really wasn't very good. It was so hard for her not to people please in that situation and pretend that the cake was great. And, the funny thing about that is so often we may end up pretending in a situation and the next thing you know, you're always getting that cake. Someone's thinking about you. They're like, oh, Tera loves that cake. I'm going to get it for her. And every time you're like, oh, I hate this cake. I hate this cake. I hate this cake. But because you don't know how to just be honest with your preferences because you think the other person is going to have their feelings hurt for you to say, I don't like the cake. You don't say it. So when we begin to challenge ourselves to really say, I know I love to add this. This is really hard for me to say because I know how much you thought of me when you got that cake for me, but I just have to tell you, it wasn't good, but I so appreciate the thought behind it. It's remarkable when we can hear a script like that and we can realize, oh my gosh, I actually could tell this person the truth. I don't have to keep pretending that I like things when I don't like them. You can simply preface it with a statement like, this is really hard for me to tell you because I know how much thought you put into that. And you even spent some extra money on it. But I just want you to know it wasn't very good. Being authentic and feeling awkward about something is how we all learn how to do something new, how we all learn how to stop people pleasing. We have to just I have another coach, a friend, and she says, you just have to gag and go sometimes, right? You're like, okay, I feel like I'm going to throw up if I have to tell this person the truth in this situation. But it's only fair to tell people the truth. And it's only fair to you to begin to let them in and see the real you and let them interact with the real you. So I'm going to see how I want to end this for you because I had a couple of other things I was going to say, but honestly, I think I've said enough. And so what I want to tell you is that people pleasing isn't loving. It just isn't. And if you can begin to really let that sink into you, people pleasing is manipulative. It feels like it's the kind thing to do just because I'm afraid to tell the truth, when the real kind thing to do is to tell the truth. All right. And how do you stop people pleasing? It's just really pretty simple. You make this case for yourself. You decide, it's time for me to stop feeling the need to shape-shift myself. Or maybe you're like Shirley, who is just like, I am tired of contorting myself and carrying this heavy burden for everyone else. Or you're like, this really is manipulative and I don't like being manipulative. All three of those things are just a way to make a decision easier on you, to say, at this stage and age in my life, I'm going to stop people pleasing. And just like Tera said in that episode of the Soul-u-tions Podcast, I've got to realize that other people in my life may not like it at first. So I need to be patient with myself and my own awkwardness for saying it, and patient with them as they push the fence and embark on their own Jurassic Park type of adventure. And it's so worth it if you do, because take a moment, as long as you're not driving, to close your eyes right now and fast forward 6 months from now, when you've been awkward and willing to just be honest with people and willing to stop contorting yourself for them and willing to let them do their own emotional labor. And I want you to envision this version of yourself as a lighter version, as a version that's happier, as a version that would never, ever, ever, ever in a million years go back to contorting herself and doing all the work that she's been doing to try to people please people ever again. And that you have got to keep all of those things front of mind. And I sometimes have to write them down on paper. And sometimes I even have to tell them to myself out loud until it really sinks in and it becomes your new way of being in the world. And it allows you to walk around lighter. And here's the little bonus. People will begin to actually trust you more because they'll know that you're always being honest with them. And I tell you what, that has been one of the greatest gifts of being willing to step out of my people-pleasing mode, is because people know, they're like, oh yeah, I can trust her. I can trust her to tell me the truth about whether this dress looks good on me, whether this cake is good, or about anything else. Those are some lighthearted examples, but I think you could probably think to yourself and call up some, some deeper and more meaningful examples for you. So thank you again for being a valued listener on the Soul-u-tions Podcast. I really, really do think about you often. I take you with walks with me throughout my day, thinking, what would be valuable to her? And I also imagine you in your life doing all the things listening to this podcast. So I just wanted to say thank you for being a listener. And if you haven't, to please subscribe. That is something the algorithm loves. Another thing that the algorithm loves, and it's just a personal favor to me, is if you can think of someone in your life who is struggling with people pleasing, would you please forward this episode to them? That will tell them that you are thinking of them, but it's also something that would be a great gift to me because it helps me get this podcast out in front of more people who are interested in the topics that we discussed here. So until next time, my friends, thank you for being a valued listener. And leave a review for me. That would just be something super, super nice as well. All right, talk to you next time.
I ain't done living the life I'm meant to lead. And I ain't done loving the ones who cared for me. The hope and the strength and the love and the smiles and the laughter of friends and family. Add it up, you'll find no limit to the possibility.